Welcome back to Switchstars, my name's Luke, and today on the channel we're taking a look at Gunscape, a retro-inspired FPS title which takes influence from the classic shooters of the 90s, predominantly the Quake games, but unlike most shooters which feature developer-created scenarios for us to play through, this one's almost entirely focused around user-created content, providing the necessary tools to create, share and play your own creations and those of other players. It's a concept which sounds incredibly intriguing, but do player-generated experiences make for engaging gameplay, and is there enough of it to sustain your attention? Well, drop a like, subscribe for more Nintendo Switch reviews and content, and let's find out. So like I said, Gunscape is a game which is almost entirely centred around player-driven content, and the game's main menu presents you with an interface allowing you to browse through different categories to find game types and content which best suits your preference. Amongst these you'll find campaign modes consisting of a series of levels which you can play through in order, and when you first boot up the game you'll be pushed to play through Blowfish Studios' own campaign, which showcases a variety of different gameplay features and environments, as well as giving you a feel for the controls, enemy types and combat. But it does have a bit of a storyline to it and generally acts as a showcase for the art of the possible. Once you've had your fill of this though, you can then dive into the different categories and play whatever tickles your fancy. And the gameplay itself is very reminiscent of those classic Quake games. It has a familiar fast-paced Twitch shootery feel to it, and the visual aesthetics have taken influence from a variety of different games from the 90s and noughties, including Quake, Team Fortress, Turok and Wolfenstein. Just like the classics, weapons can be found strewn about the levels and include everything from pistols, assault rifles and rocket launchers, to miniguns, flamethrowers and futuristic plasma rifles. But again, the weapons and enemies are all influenced by the games of the past, and there's some really good variety in offer, though what you will find is that it's entirely down to what the creator chooses to put into the levels. This also goes for the levels themselves. The quality of them really varies in both their overall design and what you'll be up against, so you could be in for an entirely combat-oriented experience packed with tons of enemies, or alternatively be facing a bunch of jumping puzzles or trap-filled rooms to navigate. And this is both the beauty and the downfall of player-driven content. It's luck of the draw, but the game does have a voting system to make finding decent levels that little bit easier. Overall though, the shooting, jumping and other gameplay mechanics all feel pretty solid, and while the enemy AI is relatively simple, it works well enough providing the layouts of the levels aren't overly complex. There's also no gyro aiming, but on the plus side it does support the Pro Controller. Now the game supports both offline split screen for up to 4 players and online multiplayer for up to 8 players, though there's a bit of discrepancy between the eShop listing and the in-game number for this, so according to the game's listing it could only be 4 online, but regardless of this fact, Gunscape offers a variety of game modes depending on what you're up for. The campaign modes generally offer 4-player cooperative experiences with a separate menu available for standalone co-op levels, and on the competitive side of things you'll find the usual assortment of solo and team-based modes, including free-for-all, team deathmatch, capture the flag, gun game and king of the hill. Aside from these categories, you'll also be able to browse the top community voted maps, new and updated ones, and a choice selection of editors' picks. And while there is a large amount of variety on offer, the interface itself suffers from one major flaw, and that is that there isn't actually a search function to allow you to filter maps using keywords, and instead you're forced to refresh a choice of 8 maps in the hopes that you hit on something new or spot something that takes your fancy. When it comes to playing with others though, you're able to set up a public game which random people can jump into, or alternatively invite friends to private games, but unfortunately there doesn't currently appear to be any cross-platform multiplayer, so expect the player base to be rather limited. Now, I took the time to dive into a bunch of different maps, both co-op and competitive, and as expected, amongst them I found recreations of iconic shooter levels, including Duke Nukem 3D's first level, Hollywood, complete with its rooftop start point and a rather rudimentary interpretation of its cinema area, the opening dam level of GoldenEye 64, and a Wolfenstein 3D inspired level full of Nazi-esque foot soldiers. On the multiplayer side of things, again, plenty of reproductions on offer, including a pretty awesome take on Counter-Strike's Dust 2 level. But in addition to these copycats, there are a ton of original creations for you to jump into and explore. Now, my time with this one was spent playing solo due to me having pre-release access to the game and there being no one else online to play with, and I did have a quick look on launch day and the server lists were still empty. But considering the PC version has been out since 2016 and even the player base there is rather limited, you'll likely be hard pushed to find a server with more than a handful of players, even if the game does implement cross-platform play with PC and other consoles, so this is probably just something you're going to be playing locally or online with a few friends. Now, finally, covering off the game's building mechanics, if you've ever played Minecraft then you'll likely feel right at home here, as the game features a similar block-based building system, allowing you to piece together levels by first selecting which type of material you want to use, slotting them into the toolbar at the top of the screen, before placing them down or removing them with the L and R triggers. It's incredibly easy to use, and in about 15 minutes I was able to put together a simple 2-room level featuring a stone corridor and interactable door, and a courtyard with a nice little pool of water and a few trees and enemies. The materials menu is a little bit iffy to navigate, with it frequently switching between sub-menus when I was trying to scroll through the materials, but overall it's pretty well organised, breaking them down into themes, each of which contains basic building blocks as well as a bunch of environmental features, enemy types and weapons. There are also a few scripting mechanics you can implement, such as trap triggers and keycarded doors, and you can also select from a bunch of different skyboxes and ambient fog effects to customise the environment. So all in all, it's a pretty good toolset which is relatively intuitive to use, and even younger players should be able to throw something together without too much hassle. Once you piece something together though, you can then snap a screenshot for its thumbnail, publish it and share it for others to play, and it should show up in whatever game mode you've categorised it as well as the new maps menu. Now, to touch on the audio and visuals of this one, as you can see you're getting that classic low poly visual aesthetic which definitely captures the essence of those games of yesteryear, and there's some nice options when it comes to its themes which brings plenty of visual variety. But having been ported from Steam, the game often struggles with its frame rate, and depending on the complexity of levels, some of them actually turn out to be practically unplayable, as many of them were designed to be played on more powerful PC systems. Audio-wise, the game sounds pretty good. We get some decent sound effects for the weapons, enemies and environments, and like the visuals, the game's music tracks sound like alternative renditions of iconic tracks from other games, including the likes of Halo and classic Doom, but altogether it's pretty decent stuff on the audio and visual front. So when all's said and done, Gunscape is a fun little experimental title which, like many of its ilk, have the potential to be a treasure trove of player created content. However, the lack of a search engine really limits your ability to find what you're looking for, and quality is always something which is going to hinder the game, as aside from a thumbs up, thumbs down rating system, you really have no idea of what a level actually has in store for you. The limited online player base is also something that's definitely going to hold the game back in terms of its replayability, and crossplay functionality would possibly help to bolster it. But even without the multiplayer, the offline split screen should still offer an enjoyable enough gameplay experience to those looking for something to play locally. And if you enjoy classic shooters and are looking to explore the creative minds of others, or perhaps experiment and flex your own creative muscles, then Gunscape offers plenty of decent tools with which to do so. And so when it comes to a rating, I'm going to be giving Gunscape 3 out of 5 stars. An interesting one to say the least this, and despite the volatile nature of the content, I'd really love to see more of these community driven titles on the Switch, as they definitely make for more interesting plays than some of the indies, or even some of the AAA titles we've seen released over the past couple of years. And with that, we're just about done for this review of Gunscape. So is this one that you're going to be diving into and having a bit of a play about with? And do you know of any other similar games that you can recommend? Let me know down in the comments section below. As always though, if you enjoyed this one, give it a thumbs up, subscribe for more Switch content including reviews, deals and top game roundups, and until next time, take care of yourselves and game on.